Hi, we have Autodesk Fusion 360 downloaded onto our laptops now, and I've signed into my account and I've opened it up, and this is basically what you should end up seeing. So before we do anything else, I'm going to just show you a couple of things. So all of this stuff up here, these menu items and the sketch and the create and the modify, we're going to be taking a look at some of these tools during this tutorial, but we're not going to look at everything. So when you're done the tutorial, anything that we haven't looked at that kind of looks neat or interesting or any of that stuff, go take a look, go play around with it. Nothing's going to happen. All right, this is time for you to learn. So be adventurous with this. All right. Now, the first thing that you're going to do on this video is to make sure that we can actually see the full grid. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over to this little tool right here. And if you've done any 3D printing with 123D Design, which is the precursor of Fusion 360, you should probably recognize the tool. So basically, if you want to see the grid from the top, you press top. If you want to see the grid from a corner view or from sort of a top left or top right, in this case, you can view it from an angle. Or if you want to view it from the top right front corner, okay? And this actually gets really, really cool. All right, once we get some objects onto the, and that's viewing it from the side. And of course, we have nothing on the grid, so it's just like this little flat line. All right. The other thing that we've got is there's a little menu here, and it allows us to choose the perspective, or how we end up seeing the grid. And I would suggest that you go with orthographic here. All right. Basically, what it means is orthographic kind of looks like perspective, but it doesn't show the distortion that a perspective drawing that you might have done in art class does. So what you'll see here is as soon as I turn it on orthographic, you're going to see the bottom part of the grid here start to change shape slightly, so it looks a lot more like the top part here. All right, so let's do that. Okay, you can sort of see here, even though these squares from the perspective point of view are closer to you, they look the same as these squares right here. Okay, now from an art point of view, it does look a little unrealistic, but from a design point of view, I strongly recommend it. Now, the next thing we're going to do is go to top view here, and we need to figure out what our grid measurements are, because normally when you have a set of axes like we do, the red axis is the x-axis and the blue is the y-axis here, there's usually some numbers on it to describe the gradations or how big the squares are, but we don't have that here yet, so we're going to go check that out. So the very first thing we're going to do is you're going to take your thumb and forefinger and put them onto the trackpad of your laptop. I'm assuming here that you're using an Apple laptop of some sort, and you're going to pinch slowly, and you're going to find that that motion shrinks the grid down. Okay, and I only want you to shrink it down so that you can see the full grid here. Okay, now the default size here is 25 by 25 centimeters, and because we're going to be 3D printing out this project, all right, the maximum size of the object we're going to be printing out is going to be 25 centimeters by 25 centimeters, and then about 25 centimeters tall. All right, but the 3D printers we're using, I think we have to make it a little bit smaller than that. So we'll talk more about that in a moment. First thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to take a look at the gradations here and edit the grid a bit. So the first thing we want to do is go to grid, and we go to grid settings. All right, and we're going to change our minor subdivisions from 5 to 10. All right, and that basically just makes the makes it a little bit easier to sort of see where we are. I like having slightly smaller squares, but not so small that you can't read the numbers on the side here, because when I design, I like to see the full print space of my 3D printer. And this should be okay for now. Okay, I'm going to make this 250 millimeters a little bit smaller in the next video probably, but in all honesty, I'm just going to run out to my 3D printers here and get a ruler and check about how big they are, because I'm working with a different set of printers this year, so I'm not sure how big to make the bed. So we're going to do that in another video. Anyways, so we've changed our grid line spacing here. We've changed things to orthographic instead of perspective. And once we check out the size of our print bed, we should be ready to get going.